Hey, all, welcome back to FPL Fran. Today's video is going to be the Gameweek 38 cheat sheet. It's the final cheat sheet of the season, and we might not see each other up until, I don't know, probably the preseason. Maybe there's some Fantasy Club World Cup. I'm not holding out for that, but this will be the final one. So thank you guys so much for watching the videos this season, supporting with your comments and everything. I've had a pretty tough year personally, FPL wise, pretty tough as well. But we have made it towards the end of the season, and I'm looking forward to the next one where hopefully things will be a lot better on both fronts. But otherwise, thank you guys once again, as I said, for supporting the content, and I look forward to creating more content as we head towards the preseason. So, starting with Gaming 38, there's not much to say. There's a couple teams on the beach. There's actually a lot of teams that also you don't really know how they're going to approach things. I've listened to manager press conferences so far. There's a lot of talk about wanting to play in front of the home fans and get a win, but then you just know the different circumstances are relevant, right? Let's say Tottenham, for example, just celebrated their Europa League win. They are playing at home, but I'm not sure what that really means when Brighton's actually pushing on many fronts. On the flip side, you've got a team like Bournemouth who kind of have a very nice, easy match to see out the season. It seemed like Irola wanted to do very well. And then you've got teams, of course, competing for this top four, for European spots, top five, actually. Sorry. And that's very, very important for the final day. We also have a lot of misinformation, a little bit, and uncertainty over some Newcastle players, but I'm going to try to take that into account. Otherwise, let's just jump into the So, starting with the midfield, I've added Tavernier as an option. I think, you're looking at Kluivert now, and his minutes look absolutely toilet. His form is absolutely toilet. Maybe it's actually to do with the injury that he's had. I don't know if he's playing injured, and maybe that is the prevailing issue, but you can see his minutes have taken a significant impact. As a Kluivert owner, I don't feel very good about owning him, and I would not really be recommending anyone to go for him for this week, although it feels nice for me to potentially play someone, I guess, for 45 minutes versus Leicester at home, regardless. So I'm in a bit of a different position. On the flip side, though, Tavernier is someone who is fit, who should be playing the full match, I would think, versus Leicester, and that's a very good position for him to be in. Sade has been extremely in form for a long time now, and he still closes out the season with a relatively okay game. Wolves away is probably not the best Brentford game as of late, but we also did see Wolves collapse completely versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace had plenty of chances just coming off of an FA Cup win. So, now that Wolves' win streak is over, they're very much on the beach. You're starting to see players like Cunha getting dropped, sort of, and there's an impact to that. So I think Brentford will probably still continue wanting to finish as high as possible, and Shadi is quite nice. Semenyo, just a solid pick. He's probably my favorite pick of these sort of cheap mids. You're arguably taking in the best game, the player with the best minutes, and that's it. Yes, of course, he's been a little bit boring this season, in fairness, and you can see the output this season when you compare it to some of his peers isn't very good, but you still have to say the fixture's there, and you're just looking for one game. In the next tier of players, we've got Martinelli rising towards the top. I did listen to what Arteta had to say. He can say one thing and he can mean the complete opposite. What's a good example of that? Any of the European games that they were sort of facing off before their Champions League, or rather the Premier League matches that they were facing off before, let's say, and after European matches, when they were still involved in the Champions League, you could see he was still sort of talking about how they had to respect the league, had to sort of do well within the Premier League, and you can see the lineups are completely not reflective of that. I still think Martinelli should be someone who plays really good minutes, irrespective of the situation, what the lineup is on Sunday. So I do really like Martinelli for the occasion, for the fixture. Kudish also gets a little bit of a soft rise. He's been in and out of the cheat sheet as of late. Probably not worked out as a differential as much as anyone else would have hoped if he's been brought in. On the flip side, Bowen has just been going from strength to strength. An amazing finish as well from Bowen in the previous match, and I'm talking a lot more about Bowen than Kudish, but this is still a great game. So would I ever really go for Kudish in the final day? Not necessarily, unless I just specifically had to spend within this sort of budget price point, and I was, for whatever reason, let's say, not enthralled by the prospect of going for, let's say, an Arsenal player. Trossard, I think I also quite like as a pick. He's stayed at yellow, though, because I still quite like Martinelli's minutes over his, even though Trossard has been the one who's been technically in form as of late. Just something that I'm thinking about when the full team is there. I do think Trossard's minutes are slightly worse, and that's just my intuition. Eze gets a soft drop, and that's simply because it's the Liverpool game. Yes, Liverpool are on the beach. Crystal Palace are probably still continuing to want to sort of maintain this run. So is Eze, who has continued his goal scoring streak. Very, very fortunate within what, 10-15 minutes of the previous match versus Wolves. He's in incredibly hot form. if I owned him, I probably would actually give some thought to starting him potentially on this game. But a lot of us have 8 attackers, and he might be the one that gets benched on this day. I probably wouldn't be looking to buy him on this match. Otherwise, I think the rest of the tiers are very similar. I've given Salah a rise and I've given Palmer a fall, and that's just fixture related. Yes, Salah has been absolutely abysmal as of late. He even missed one of the easiest sitters that I've seen in recent memory, but that happens, and he still has a home game. He still clearly is trying to go and break records. He's still in touching distance of breaking these records. His minutes are perfect. He's at home. Hopefully, Liverpool put on a show, and I think they have an incentive to do it in terms of this being their last home game with the fans, and Salah having some sort of personal records, in distance. So just the thought on Salah, I think he's still a solid pick for this final day. With Palmer, it's a pretty tough defense to go against. Chelsea's offensive ratings have dropped a bit. He himself has dropped in terms of underlying stats. I probably wouldn't really care much about Palmer, although I do, of course, because he's in my team. Moving on towards the forwards. The only changes I've added here is Watkins, who has sort of maintained his place at the top and over Isak. And I mean, nothing's really changed within this list. I've given Haaland a bit of a rise. I think the forwards that we've sort of been looking at from a long time out now are still very, very good. Evan Nilsson's probably the most preferred forward transfer of the week. I can't see Jefferson getting minutes, even though he scored versus Man City. And when I say minutes, I just mean serious minutes. And so the forward is a pretty dry position. A lot of us are probably invested into the forwards that we want. I've given Cunha a soft drop because clearly his minutes don't look very good. Marmoush could very well start, but I think that part of the reason why Marmoush actually was starting versus Bournemouth was actually a stylistic matchup. And so, playing against a team like Bournemouth who are happy to play with a high line is more important than, let's say, the future matchup, which is going to be Fulham away in a very, very different type of game, which I'm sure Pep understands and will anticipate. So I do think Marmoush's minutes, even after an amazing goal, a screamer, aren't necessarily guaranteed for Gameweek 38, whereas Haaland's would be. On defense, moving over to that, Cash has been added. I think he's just a final solid pick for the end of the season. Aston Villa have just gone from strength to strength as a defensive team to close out the season. The ratings look really, really good. Cash's minutes in particular have looked really good, particularly when you compare it to, let's say, the likes of Dean and Maatsen, who are still rotating as we close out the season. And I think that's very much, a situation now where Maatsen can play specific matches depending on, what Emery sees fit for a tactical purpose. With the right back position, Cash has played quite well as of late. I think he'll maintain that spot. Vandenberg gets a soft drop fixture related. Colwill as well. These are both away matches. I think Chelsea actually have a really good chance of keeping a clean sheet, but it's just a case of, once again, a little bit of an away factor here. Nottingham Forest with something to play for. But Chelsea's defense has been really strong, so that's something that you can probably, benefit from at the very bare minimum. Agbedo gets a soft drop, fixture related. And then the big rises are all these Newcastle defenders who, Botman could be included in this, but I think his minutes are still fragile, just because he's unfortunately a very injury prone player, as it has turned out over the last 2 seasons, I suppose. So Burn and Livermento are definitely my top picks if you want to just go for a Newcastle defender to close out the season. We don't really know what the Trippier situation is. He might be available to play. I'm not quite sure. I probably wouldn't take a risk at all for him. Shaw is probably the best Newcastle single defender that you can actually move into this week. But then I think, actually, if you look at the tier next, Kirkus is probably better. So it's a case of looking at, let's say, these Newcastle defenders or the Bournemouth defenders. Howson is there to compete versus these Newcastle defenders in a tier below. If you can spend a little bit more money, I would definitely go for the likes of Kirkus and Shaw over even Burn and Livermento. And that's because, Shaw has little things like potential pen share, even just a lot of the sort of set piece actions as well, and even some of his open play actions too. So that's a huge benefit. Kukurea gets a soft drop. Once again, I think Kukurea has been absolutely excellent, especially towards, I'd say, the end of the season, right? As Cole Palmer has declined, Kukurea has gone crazy, I suppose. Like, his final third involvements are amazing. The coach constantly sort of references the amount of times he's been clinical, but also, composed and I think intelligent in terms of the situations where he actually finds himself within great spots within the attacking third, and he just continues to produce and produce. And so Kukurea, he gets a drop here, but I think he's still such an easy hold if you actually moved into him last match day, and he's just a wonderful pick to see out the season. Aït-Nouri has a home game, so he gets a soft rise. Other than that, I think the list is very much the same. I've been very hesitant to move Trippier. I didn't want to drop Munoz as well because I felt like it was a bit boring to do so. But that's really it. As we close out, this season, I think we have had excellent defensive options across the board. The likes of Wan-Bissaka, Konsa closing out the season very high just shows you, I guess, the range of variance that you can have with a lot of top tier defenders. There hasn't been anyone who's consistently dominated the game, maybe with exception to Munoz, I suppose. But it's been a very fun season. And defensively, I think we can see that the ratings have moved a lot. And then at times you just also happen to have defenders that have excellent hauls that go for spans of games. Like for example, Lewis Hall in the midpoint of the season. So now that we're kind of closing towards the end, you're just targeting one match. I'd probably just pick a home game. Everton, Leicester, as I said, are my favorites. Arsenal's a bit of a weird one. I think they probably would have been the preferred pick until we saw the Saliba injury. That probably means Kiwior is going to play undoubtedly, but he's still, I would say, unlikely to be my sort of preferred pick for this match, for this final day. For goalkeepers, the soft changes are once again fixture related. Kepa getting a rise, Flecken getting a drop, Pope getting a rise, Raya getting a rise as well. And this is all just due to the fixture. This is Gameweek 38. It's a very simple week for the cheat sheet. It's a short cheat sheet, but I hope you guys have had a wonderful season. And I hope the cheat sheet has helped you to make certain decisions as we have come towards the conclusion of, once again, another great FPL season. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Take care and goodbye.